The story of most human societies has followed a more or less predictable pattern. It is the pattern of tribes. Sometimes of tribes establishing control over others by war or subversion, or of tribes breaking free of that control, and in both cases led by a charismatic leader whose reward is godlike power over all. These tribes identify themselves by language or ethnicity or soil, but their story is mostly the same. Us, not them. Power, not liberty. Stasis, not transformation. 244 years ago, from the intellectual milieu of the 18th century Enlightenment, one nation broke with this pattern, identifying itself by the natural and inalienable rights of all men, as received not from some legendary leader, but from the Almighty Creator himself. 11 years later, this nation wrote a republican instrument of government that turned all its attention to how those rights could best be secured. In a world of empires and monarchs and serfs, where men were born as an atom of dust and women as a straw in the wind, the American Republic would bid the atom of dust become a man, the straw in the wind a woman, and both were set free to make of themselves whatever they wished or dreamed or struggled to be. Yet this new republic has had its enemies. First, the monarchs, who were amused and then alarmed by it. Then the romantic ideologues, who found replacements for the comforting embrace of tribe in the lethal embrace of race and class. Through these challenges, our best protection has come through our history, through the remembrance of a great soldier who laid down his commission rather than seize power, of a shrewd lawyer whose hand freed slaves and wiped out the Republic's ugliest birthmark, of an enslaved man who lived to be the greatest example and the greatest preacher of self-made men, of an actor who bade the walls of tyrants come tumbling down. In truth, history has been our only protection, for we have no ethnicity, no tribe to fall back upon, only our vivid dedication to an Enlightenment ideal, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone. But our history is not in good health. Sometimes its illness is one of neglect. In our anxiety for dominance in science and technology, history has been nudged aside, so that in 2014, the National Assessment of Educational Progress showed that only 18% of American 8th graders could be considered proficient in U.S. history, while fully 1/3 do not know when the Civil War occurred, and 40% could not identify the words of the Gettysburg Address with Abraham Lincoln. Sometimes, however, our history's eclipse has had more malign sources, in those whose ideology leads them to cast the American experiment in as grim a shade as possible, so that the way can be made over the ruins of the Republic for some imagined new order, which, in the end, turns out to be only a new tribalism. Pick up the newest issues of our flagship historical quarterlies, and their contents will often be an unrelieved witches' sabbath of condemnation of the American past and the improbability of an American future, of a revolution concocted to defend slavery, of capitalism which is coterminous with bondage, and with truth at the mercy of narrative, and never a thought to whether this will build up rather than tear down the souls of its readers. The ideologues are not unwise in crafting a strategy which tells us that our history is a balloon, sent aloft to decoy us from the tracks of the powerful. If we wish to imperil the American experiment, we can find few more sinister paths to that peril than by forgetting, obscuring, or demeaning who we were. For that will tell the story of who we are and who we will become. History is not merely a trot line of metaphors to be analyzed purely as a construct of language. It is not a novel. It is about specific people in specific places within specific events, and to treat it otherwise is to entertain nonsense and to invite the production of despair and discouragement. But our energies cannot be consumed in merely pulling down the pullers down. Fellow citizens, said Abraham Lincoln in 1862, we cannot escape history. We of this Congress and this administration will be remembered in spite of ourselves. We must think anew and act anew, and then we shall save our country. Like Nehemiah of old, we must weep for the memory of a city in ruins. But we must also be those who say, as in Nehemiah's time, let us rise up and build again.
Sitting room or the day room?
This is the sitting room or the day room, but it was
at one time a porch.
And what was the story from the porch? Do you think that the little girl, that picture, is the little girl?
No, I don't think so.
No. Are any of these pictures, these people here?
I'm actually not sure. I don't recognize any of them.
Okay. And
Probably Ken would probably be better at telling you what actually the story behind it, to give you some basis. I actually don't remember, because I actually try not to hear any stories about anywhere before I go in.
mm-hmm.
That way my opinion won't be tainted.
Okay.
You know, that way I don't have any preconceived notions before I come in. That way my mind can be clear, and whatever impressions I know I get are actual impressions.
So are we alone in here, or do they know we're in here? you aware of what we're doing?
This might be interesting, but back in that corner over there, standing right next to Noel, where the radiator is, he's actually standing there. He's just standing and watching. He's not really saying too much.
Is he a soldier?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what he says, yes ma'am, to me?
He just nodded. I was basically being polite. Yes, ma'am.
Does he know that he's passed on?
He's well aware he was shot in the gut.
In the battle?
Yeah. Okay, if you can explain to us what happened, maybe I might be able to come across with this as best I can. He's saying we were having trouble holding off the Union troops. They sent a regiment up towards this way, and they were trying to take them out, but it was hard because they had their own sharpshooters out, and anywhere they'd go up here, it was, it was all, he's saying basically it was almost suicide being right here, because of all the men being shot here. It was horrible. And he's saying it's also true what they were saying about the blood. The blood running off the edge of the porch and dripping onto the soldiers that were down, standing along the wall. He's saying we had put a table here. That way we can shoot at him. He says the table was split in the middle and we spread it open. We put a little crack in it. And we were shooting through the crack. They couldn't tell where the shot was coming from. They were too far away. That's when he said he got shot. He got shot behind the table because I guess they figured that was probably the only place where the shots from here would be getting fired, and they shot into the table and it caught him here. He's saying they caught me right here. Right in the gut. And there wasn't anything there wasn't anything they can do. He's kind of getting a little emotional right now.
It's very sad.
And he's saying you don't understand. If you got shot and couldn't walk away, you're gonna die.
Tell him that we understand. It must have been terrible. I think it's terrible what he had to go through.
He says he appreciates your sympathy, but he doesn't want pity.
I don't pity him. I have a lot of respect for the people that died. and what they went through.
He's saying good choice of words.
And we're here today because of what happened and what they did. And I appreciate that.
He's saying, all you guys that come in here with those things, and he's pointing at the camera, those things. All you people that come in here with it, what help are you giving us?
Understanding, to help other people understand and convey your message, to help people see what happened, to help them appreciate what we have, the freedom that we have, and to help people see that we go on. And they don't need to be afraid because we go on. We don't disappear when we leave this body. And a lot of people need to believe that now. They're very confused and they don't know what's happening in the world. And they need to believe there's something more. So we do go on.
He's just getting cynical. I mean, I don't know if you can feel it or not. The energy's definitely changing with him. He's gone from more calm to a more like, I'm kind of getting tired, you know.
Well, what does he want to say? What would he like to say? Because that's why I'm here.
He wants to help the others like him out. He wants, I guess, he wants to just try to help them to be able to move on. Because some of them are still reliving. I guess they're trapped in this loop where they just keep on reliving.
Because it was so traumatic.
Because it was so traumatic. And what he's trying to understand is a lot of them are not talking to him.
Maybe they can't see him.
Well, what I'm thinking, from that point, it might be residual. It might be a residual type haunting.
What does that mean?
Where since the blood spilled on the ground here and so much of it, it's kind of like an echo, and he's picking up on this echo of the past that just keeps on echoing and repeating and repeating and repeating.
Oh.
Where it's not actually spirit, because I'm not picking up anything, because he was saying that there's actually somebody laying down right here, and I'm not feeling anything from that.
Someone was laying down there that died, that got killed there, but they're not there now. It was in the past.
Right, but the guy's spirits, I don't even sense the other guy's spirit, but he's telling me no, I'm wrong. There's somebody there.
On the ground here.
And that's why I was trying to explain what residual was.
And does he understand what you're saying? Can you tell him this?
He doesn't understand.
How do we stop the residual effect?
How can we affect the residual effect?
How can we help?
What can we do?
He's not understanding what residual
Okay,
meaning.
An echo of it. He's saying they're caught in a loop.
Right, and and like I'm saying again, I do not see what you're seeing, sir. That's why I am inclined to believe that it is just a loop of the past. An impression in the past from something so traumatic that it kind of soaked into the energy of the home, and that is what you are picking up on. Beings that you are where you are. He said he was kind of like the bearer of bad news sometimes. Son, you ain't gonna make it. I'm sorry.
That he had to tell people to get ready to leave. At least they had someone to tell them the truth.
Right. And see, I'm getting the impression that he was a surgeon, but why would he be shooting a gun if he was a surgeon? He wouldn't be here. He'd be doing something else. I don't think he'd be shooting a gun.
Unless he was a Confederate surgeon.
Well, yeah, this was Confederates.
This was Confederates.
Yes,
And
this
they all
was
got
Confederate.
massacred.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right, so the surgeon would have had to protect himself. Is that what happened? So if he's cynical, then he's very smart, almost like a doctor.
Right.
Very intellectual.
Yeah.
And he's trying to help everybody because
And
he's
I'm
a doctor.
trying to understand his word of... I can't even think right. There's just so much coming through. He's trying to communicate so hard, but he's fading out.
No, tell him not to try so hard, just to relax. Tell him to relax. It's okay.
Usually when he starts getting angry, I guess his energy starts to fluctuate and actually decline. He's pretty much faded now. I might be able to come back later if he recharges.
So you think you put out such an amount of energy trying to communicate that it depleted him, kind of?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult for spirits to try to make communication. You know, I'm basically going part way for him to help them out, but they're taking most of the journey. They're expending the most of the energy. So it tires them out very quickly.
I feel tired after that.
Oh, yawning.
I didn't want him to get mad.
He just gets aggravated, it seems like. This is not the first time I've seen him. One time I was in here with about 5 or 6 other people, and he didn't like that the room was crowded. This is his space, and they should have more respect for this room. This place they should have respect for. And a lot of people died here. I'm sorry.
It was exhausting.
Wow.
Okay? Want some water?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna need some.
Yeah, can you go grab him some water?